tutor training happens at various times throughout the year for Math Lab, but when we read the tutor self-assessments, tutors often say that they learn the most by actually tutoring. But we're a team, and so we can learn a lot from one another as well. So before some of our seniors leave Math Lab, we wanted to find out what tutoring tips and words of wisdom they have for us.
One thing I do is whenever I hear another tutor give a really good explanation of a certain temper problem, I try and take note, because I really like to use different ways, and if someone has a good way of explaining it, it's good to remember that for next time. Another thing I did to strengthen my skills was I worked a lot with older tutors when I was first starting as a tutor, and they knew a lot of things, and they taught me things that I didn't necessarily remember from my classes. And as I worked with them or listened to them tutor other students, it really helped me to learn and understand the material a lot more than when I had first taken the course.
Well, I've learned that when you're working with students, creating groups is a really good thing to do because the students really bounce ideas off of each other, and also to use guiding questions. So don't just say like, this is what you do next, this is what you do next, but instead say like, well, you have this problem, so what have you done in the past, or what do you think you're going to do? And so guiding questions kind of helps the student arrive at the answer instead of you, and also for them to build confidence. And also it helps when you're not really actually sure. Sometimes they can help you as well.
One thing that I've learned that helps me, and I think is really helpful for the students I'm tutoring, is to find where in the textbook it talks about whatever question you're on, what material you're doing. So where the textbook explains how to do it, I find it helps me because I know I'm on the right track and I know I'm fully explaining the concept to them, and it's helpful, I think, for the students because it shows them where in the textbook it talks about it, so they can refer to it later.
I found not being afraid to ask for help from other tutors, and just getting those other ways to solve the problems and finding good ways to differentiate your tutoring skills always helps. And using the book, students always have these books that have good foundational anchor points for them, and they have their notes. So it's always good to kind of go back on what they know and what they've been learning, and use that as a good resource.
I think one of the biggest things I've learned is to put examples into the context of what the students are learning. So if there's a problem that some of the students are struggling with, to try to put a real world example that they can kind of relate to in some ways. And it helps me get a better understanding of the problem that they're working on, but then also it helps the student to kind of see the problem in a different light that they can actually relate to.
Use the book in previous examples in order to build off of those in order to solve the current problem.
I think one thing that I've learned over the few years that I've been tutoring is just to use the students that are around you. So I teach math for LEd, and we normally have like a few students there, so if one of them understands the concept really well, I normally have them teach one of the other students, which seems to work really well. And then also just like building those study skills and not just the math concepts.
To be welcoming to students that come in. It can be really intimidating to come in and work on math because a lot of the students kind of see the tutors as super geniuses. So when they come in, make sure to break down the student-tutor barrier by welcoming them in and asking them if they need help.
I wish I would have known that it's okay to ask others. It's a little intimidating when you're in the math lab to ask the other tutors or even the tutors who tutor higher level math classes, but it's really important to realize you don't have to feel overwhelmed. If you don't know the answer to a question, just ask, because you don't want to, one, seem like you don't know, or two, you don't want to tell them something that's wrong. So feel free to ask other tutors because it's kind of a team effort and everyone's there to help each other.
I think one thing I wish I would have known is that all students are really different, and I can't really cater to each student individually, but there are ways to kind of adapt to different learning styles. So I can't completely shift learning styles if I'm working with two students at the same time, but I can make them both feel comfortable in what they're learning and try to help them out through their learning style.
That I don't need to know everything. I think going into it, I was really intimidated, especially being an LEd major. Like just having all of the math people was a little nerve-wracking, especially with like the math LEd students coming in. But just knowing that like we can use each other and like we can be resources to each other and not knowing everything is okay, and struggling with a problem is okay.
It's okay not to know everything.
Yeah.
Like, I went in there thinking I would have to know every single problem and how to explain it perfectly. And it's really okay to not have all the answers and to ask for help.
Yep.
And also just being confident and not just going straight to the answer key for all the answers. Just kind of having a good balance of figuring out the problems on your own and backing it up with what the solution key might have in store.
I think I wish I'd known that it's okay if you don't know everything. I think I was a little scared and like, oh no, I forgot this. But it's okay if you don't, there's going to be stuff you don't remember and you have to refer back. But as long as you use your resources and help guide them through, it's okay if you're working through it with them because you're still guiding them, and so it's okay.
I wish I had known that you don't need to be afraid to tell a student that a problem is really hard. You know, it's okay not to know the answer, and it's okay to say, let's work through this together. I think we can figure it out. We'll look back in the book and see if there are any examples, you know, and if we still can't figure it out after a little while, maybe then we'll ask help or we'll ask the professor, and that's okay.
I would say to enjoy math lab. As a senior, I didn't start tutoring in math lab until my junior year, and I have had a lot of fun in math lab, and sometimes it can feel a little draining to sit there when you have homework to do, but the relationships that you build with the tutors and the students are really incredible, especially here at Bethel. So just make sure you're enjoying your experience, and also don't get stuck in a routine. I know sometimes I feel like I only want to tutor pre-calc, or I only want to tutor math for the 21st century, and thinking about tutoring the upper level classes like Calc 2 and stuff can be kind of intimidating, but don't get stuck there because you just need the confidence. Just like you want your students or the tutors, people you're tutoring, to feel confident, you should be confident too.
My biggest tip for current tutors is to serve with a joyful heart. I think that Christ calls us to be joyful and to serve with a joyful attitude. And I think students can really tell when you serve with a joyful heart as opposed to a non-joyful heart. If you have a positive attitude about math and you're excited for them, they're more likely to be excited about math and have positive memories about math.
I think just creating a good atmosphere is really important. Being welcoming, trying to remember the regular students' names, just so it creates a kind of friendly environment, and then also helping the students connect with each other, so forming groups, and so a lot of them are in the same classes and they're coming together, and even if they don't really know each other at first, it can be helpful to kind of help group them and make those connections within their class.
I think my biggest tip is just to have fun and just jump in wherever you can and help out. Even if you're not familiar with the class, feel free to check answers or jump into classes that you think that you can help with. I mean, students are always looking for someone who can critically think about a problem and help them work through it.
I think the biggest tip is to use the resources they have available. So the other tutors are there for a reason. You can ask them for help. The textbooks are there for a reason, and also the other students. Sometimes if one student really understands the problem and what's going on, you can kind of pull them in and help them teach the other student.
Yeah, grouping students is definitely helpful.
I'd probably say treat this like a real job. Although
As opposed to a fake job.
Yeah, of course. This is it's a very good opportunity for tutors to do this every week, and I would say it can be very fun in there, but the skills you're able to develop will be lifelong skills, and it's extremely important to take it seriously and develop it and grow from it. So
I think the main one would just be creating relationships. I mean, obviously people at Bethel are great, and people coming into math lab, like you normally have like those consistent people who come in like every time you work or stuff like that. So just like creating those relationships, getting to know them, especially the first time they come in, learning their name and learning what year they are and how they're doing in the class and stuff like that. So then you can keep building that relationship, because then they'll keep coming back.